Hello, my name is Nereida Dunn, and in this video, I will be the principal conducting the pre-conference and post-conference meeting with teacher Ms. Ganchev. Good morning, Ms. Ganchev. Thank you for meeting with me today for your TTES pre-conference. I see that you've got a division lesson coming up. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yes, absolutely. I'm teaching a fourth grade math lesson that's on the division. It's focused on TEKS 4.4H and 4.4G mainly, but we have more integrated. It's we're going to use hands-on tools like counters and drawings to solve division problems. We're also going to explore remainders, which are very important in real life scenarios. And I'll start with a fun candy sharing story to hook them in, and then we'll use the manipulatives and end with a division game.
All right, that's great. That sounds engaging and very student centered. I love how you're incorporating real world context to build relevance aligned with the Texas standards, the principal standards. So, especially in promoting high quality instruction. So, what do you want your students to know and be able to do by the end of your lesson?
Well, by the end of the lesson, I want students to solve division problems using strategies that are the various strategies like grouping, drawing, models, and maybe even the standard algorithm. I also want them to understand what a remainder is and how to handle it based on the context. And most of all, I just want them to feel confident and not afraid when they see division.
That's a really great mindset to foster, and it speaks to building a culture of learning which connects with another standard, right? So, how are you grouping your students?
Well, it depends on the work that we're doing because they are going to work in pairs, but they're also going to work in small group. I basically try to group them so that they can support one another. I also keep students like Juan and Jose. I like to keep them close by so I can check in with frequency. The setup really helps them and to stay engaged in the problem solving process
Right. Yes.
as it is.
Well, thank you for letting me know about those two students. Of course, smart grouping and intentional proximity can really make a difference. I appreciate how you're planning proactively for the needs of your students. And also, what strategies are you using to differentiate?
Lots of visuals for sure. Lots and lots of visuals,
Okay,
step by
awesome.
step guidance and manipulatives.
That's right.
For Juan and Jose, I break things down more and give them a wait time. And I
Okay.
allow movement breaks also. Some kids will also use drawings while others are going might be ready for something more challenging, but everyone will work at their own level with access to the same concepts that they have.
Oh, that's great. Excellent. I see you're committing to equity and um, which is also another part of principal standards. So that is great. You're creating effective instructional practices for all learners. Another thing, is there anything that you'd like me to look out for, especially during the observation?
Yes. I first of all, I love feedback on how students are responding to the different strategies, especially the grouping, the drawing, and the models. Also,
Yes, of
if you
course.
notice, I'm supporting Juan and Jose.
Yes.
Focus that would be very helpful. And if the students are showing they understand what to do with remainders and in real life word problems.
That's great. That's great. I will pay close attention to their engagement and comprehension, especially with remainders and your support strategies for Juan and Jose. How are you planning to assess student learning throughout the lesson?
Well, I'm going to be walking around asking various questions like, how did you solve
Monitoring, yes.
that? And what do we do with the leftover because it's remainders? And at the end, they'll complete a treasure map worksheet to demonstrate their understanding of the
Oh, that's
lesson.
great.
And we'll also do a short exit ticket to like
Oh, that's
check for
great.
fluency.
Great use of formative and summative checks. That's a strong way to ensure mastery of the learning objectives. How will you determine if your lesson was successful?
Well, in order to determine if the lesson was successful, is by them being able to show me that they can solve division problems by
Of course,
using
yes.
anything that they need, whether it's visuals, drawings, and that they're able to explain the remainders and context and stay engaged. I'll consider it a success. I'm looking for effort, for smiles, and solid math
That's great,
thinking.
of course.
Mhm.
It sounds like you're creating a very supportive environment where the students are going to feel safe to learn, which is a very strong key to school culture. Do you anticipate any challenges?
Well, yes, keeping students like Juan and Jose focused can be a real challenge. So some students might rush or get stuck on remainders, and students work at different speeds. So time management might, be a
Yeah.
little tricky.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
thank you for being honest. Of course, planning is crucial and for those challenges. And when you do it in advance, it creates a strong instructional leadership. What's your plan for addressing those issues?
Well, for those students that really don't understand it, I'll keep instructions short and visuals.
Right.
I'm going to use a lot of modeling and check in frequently for them. Juan and Jose will get movement breaks if needed,
Yes, of
and
course.
I'll also have
Okay.
extension problems for early finishers and manipulatives, ready for anyone that just needs that extra
All
help.
right, great. That sounds very thoughtful. You're anticipating their needs and you're preparing. That sounds like very effective teaching. Any final notes that you want to, or any concerns that I should be aware of?
Yes, just that Juan and Jose are both autistic children with a big heart, but they do
Okay.
have limited attention spans. And I will use the
Awesome.
visual cues and the positive reinforcement and keep the lesson upbeat to build their confidence with this new concept.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. I'll be mindful of their participation and your support strategies during the observation. I appreciate how well prepared and reflective you are, Ms. Kanchev. I'm really looking forward to seeing this lesson in action.
All right, thank you so much. We'll see you
Of
there.
course. We'll see you. Good afternoon, Ms. Kanchev.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon,
Nice
Ms.
to
Dan.
see you in my office. It was a pleasure being in your classroom for your formal observation. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. This conference should take about 20 minutes, and the purpose is to reflect on your lesson, identify the strengths, and collaboratively plan for growth. So, how do you feel that the lesson went?
Thank you. Thank you. Overall, I feel the lesson went pretty well. I felt like most students were engaged and that they understood the content. There are, of course, are always little
Yes,
things
of
I
course.
noticed that I want to improve on, but I was proud of how the students responded overall.
That's great. So, today I'm going to go over two areas, an area of reinforcement and an area of refinement. And all of this is with your T-test rubric. So, one area that really stood out to me as a strength was your differentiation. It was aligned to your T-test dimension 2.4.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned in your pre-conference, that you would support your students like Juan and Jose by using movement breaks and breaking tasks into smaller steps and using manipulatives. And I wanted to let you know that I observed exactly that. So, your proactive grouping, the use of visual cues, and flexible pacing showed your deep understanding of your students' individual needs. So that was great. Your lesson allowed students to engage with division in different ways. So I really enjoyed watching them learn and be engaged. Some you used counters, others were, I noticed that were drawing models, and a few were using the standard algorithm. So that was a very good differentiation right there. This reflects a high level of teacher responsiveness and alignment with your student learning styles. You also maintained high expectations across the board, and I loved seeing that. The level of differentiation supports student growth and it meets them where they are. So I think that was your strength. And now let me ask you, when you plan these lessons, how do you decide which differentiation strategies to use for particular students?
Yes, it's a constant learning. I try to think about how each student learns best and what supports they've responded to in the past in previous lessons. And I use data from our small groups and exit tickets and observations overall that I make during our lessons, and decide who might need more visuals, hands-on tools, or step-by-step guidance. I also try to check in with them informally, and adjust based on how they're doing on their day during their day.
Well, that's a great approach, and that's what we really need. That's why we use the data. So keep using these targeted supports. They're making a real difference in your classroom, and it's very visible. Another area, the area of refinement that I wanted to go over with you is communication. So I think that one area that we can focus on for continued growth is the dimension 2.3, which is communication, specifically around how students share and process their thinking out loud. So you asked very thoughtful questions like did you solve that, and what do you do with a leftover, which was great for checking understanding. However, I noticed that some students who could have explained their thinking were a little passive during your group discussions. So this might be a great opportunity to incorporate more structured academic talk. Like sentence stems.
Yes.
Maybe you can use sentence stems
Yes.
or partner, explain,
I'm
and
gonna go ahead and
trade.
borrow a pen so I can write
Yes,
that down.
activities,
Mhm.
explain and trade activities.
Mhm.
It would amplify student voice and encourage students to verbalize their math reasoning more often. So this supports deeper conceptual understanding, and I'm pretty sure you're just one step away from there. And I know you're going to be able to incorporate these sentence steps in your
Yes.
lesson. How do you currently plan to for peer-to-peer communication or student-led explanation for your math lessons?
Well, I usually include some turn and talk moments, but I see what you mean. I mean, sometimes it's the same students speaking up, and others, they're the same ones that usually stay quiet. I want to work on giving them more structure and to feel more confident when sharing. I've used sentence stems in reading, but I can start using them more consistently in math too. I think that's a great idea.
Yes, I know, and it's math, right? So a lot of kids are a little bit less encouraging in math. That's wonderful. One way to strengthen this is to provide sentence frames, right, or roles in group work also, like explainers and checkers or summarizers. If you give each of them a job, right, so to guide students into richer math conversations. I think over time, this will also support their academic language development, especially when
Yes.
tackling new concepts like remainders. So, I mean, your lesson was really, really good.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So I'm just gonna go on to the final thoughts and your T-test rating, which
Okay.
I mean, clearly, Ms. Kanchev, you created a learning environment that was safe, engaging, and academically focused. So you were very well prepared, and your lesson aligned strongly with the TEKS. You supported all learners while maintaining rigor. That's great. Now, based on the T-test rubric, I would rate in the following dimensions, like the differentiation. I would do a distinguished, and in the communication, we were going to do an accomplished. That's where there's room for growth in
Yes,
encouraging
yes,
academic
yes.
talk. and student-led explanations.
Yes.
You're doing an excellent work. I encourage you to continue building on your strengths while experimenting with strategies to promote more student-to-student explanation.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Dunn. Thank you so much for coming into our classroom for all your feedback. I appreciate all your ideas. I'm excited to try out some new strategies for student talk
Great.
and continue
Great.
growing in that area. I appreciate it very much.
That
It means
is
a
great.
lot to hear that my differentiation is helping my students. So thank you so
Yes,
much
it
for your
is.
positive
Yes, it
feedback.
is. Thank you again for your thoughtful planning, your calm and structured instruction, and the joy that you bring into your classroom. I'm proud of your growth, and I'm excited to see what you're going to do next.
Thank you.
I plan to see you soon with other subjects, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dunn. Hello, my name is Gloria Canchef, and in this part of the video, I am going to be the principal conducting a pre-conference evaluation and a post-conference evaluation to teacher Ms. Nereida Dunn. Hello, Ms. Dunn. Good
Hi, Ms.
afternoon. How are
Sanchez.
you?
Good, thank you.
I'm glad that
How
you're
are
here.
you?
I'm doing good.
That's great.
Enjoying our day. Let's go ahead and talk about your lesson. Can you tell me more about your upcoming lesson that I'm going to be go and observe?
Yes, of course. I am going to be teaching a fifth grade science lesson.
Oh, I love
It's going to
science.
cover 5.8C.
Mhm.
And the goal for the students is to demonstrate and explain how light travels in a straight line and how it can be reflected, refracted, or absorbed. They'll explore the concepts through hands on, station based activities using real world materials. I want them to not just observe the phenomena, but also explain them using accurate vocabulary
Mhm.
and diagrams.
Wow, that sounds
Yes.
exciting
Thank
and
you.
very aligned to the TEKS. I'm
Yes,
excited
thank
to
you.
see this. I like that you're using hands-on on learning and obviously clear vocabulary. How will your students be grouped during the lesson?
I'll be having them working in mixed ability small groups, either pairs or in threes.
Okay.
The groups are designed intentionally to balance academic strengths, behavior dynamics, and language needs. This allows for peers to support each other, and it's going to create rich discussion while keeping everyone engaged during the rotations.
Oh, well, that's smart planning, Ms. Don. Good
Thank you.
job.
Thank
Those
you.
groupings should help with learning and collaboration. How are you differentiating to meet the needs of all learners?
So I have different groups in my classroom. Differentiation is going to be part of the lesson structure. So for my SPED students, I'm offering more visuals, sentence
Okay.
stems where it
Mhm.
can help them create an explanation, and I will be simplifying the instruction for them. They'll also have access to graphic organizers because we
Oh, I
do
love
a lot
graphic
of those in
organizers. Yes, they're
science,
really good.
and peer support. Now, my GT students will get a challenge activity at the reflection and refraction station. They'll design a simple optical tool and explain how light behaves within. Um, I'm also including vocabulary cards and
Yes.
visuals for my ELLs. Overall, the stations tap into multiple learning styles, visual, tactile, and verbal, so everyone has a way to stay connected
Okay,
with the
very good.
content. Yeah.
Yes, great job in supporting all students. I really like that we integrate all the students and they come all together because we don't want anyone to feel left out. I can see how everyone will be able to access the lesson. Is there anything in particular that you'd like me to focus on during the observation?
Yes, I'd love for you to focus on student engagement, especially how they interact with the materials
Mhm.
and each other. So maybe also like please note how I support vocabulary development and behavior, particularly with one student, Fatima, who sometimes struggles to stay on task in group settings. So I'll focus on her and I'll be redirecting her. But hopefully she stays engaged. So that is our goal all the time.
Got it. I'll keep an eye on that. And I know that you always do a great job. So I know that this will totally work for you. I'll keep an eye on that and watch how students interact with each other and use the vocabulary as well. How will you assess student learning?
So I'll be doing ongoing informative checks during the station rotations by asking questions and observing their discussions. There's always a lot going on in their discussions. They'll also document their observations in their science notebooks, which is something that we always use. At the end of the lesson, they'll complete an exit ticket as well. Where they choose one of three light behaviors: reflection, refraction, or absorption, and explain it using an example from our lab. So they'll also draw and label a diagram, because we have a lot of those in our practice questions. That'll help them see really and grasp the content.
Yes, of course. Good mix of checks and during and after the lesson. Good job. The exit ticket will show who got it right. How will you know if your lesson was successful?
Well, if the students are able to describe accurately and represent how light behaves using both vocabulary and visuals, then I'll know that it worked. I'll also pay attention to their engagement, their discussions, and quality of their exit tickets. So I will be checking those. If they're making connections between what they observe and the academic terms, then that's a win.
Oh, yes, of course.
But it's always really important to check their work, their behavior, their observing overall.
Sounds like a solid way to measure it. Very good. Student talk and writing will show what they've learned, right? What challenges do you anticipate in your lesson?
I think the major challenge is the time management during the stations, and keeping all students focused, especially with Fatima, is which is something that I want you to observe. She sometimes becomes distracted or distracts others, especially during more open-ended tasks like these. And we have a lot of these mini labs and labs in science. So yes, I think the time management is one of the,
for everyone in general,
yes,
right? Thanks for being so honest. I appreciate that. It's good that you're thinking ahead. How are you preparing for those challenges?
Well, I'm using visual timers, which is always something that I use up on my smart board for each station, and I give them clear directions up front. For Fatima especially, I've assigned her a meaningful role. Within her group, she'll manage materials, and now check in with her often to give positive reinforcement and just to keep her in check. I'm sure you're passing out the materials, and way to be a great helper. I also have a private signal that we use for redirection if needed. Overall, I'll be moving around constantly to keep both instruction and behavior in check.
Oh, wow. Great strategies. Giving her a role and staying close should definitely help. Good job. Is there anything else that you think I should be aware of?
Yes, just that some of my students are still building foundational vocabulary from previous science units. I've planned a quick review and vocabulary warm up at the beginning of just to help bridge any gaps. Also, I've added extra structure to the stations just to make expectations clear.
Oh, good job, good thinking. That review will help them feel ready. I'm sure of that. Well, thanks, Ms. Dunn. I'm excited to see this lesson. I'll focus on engagement, vocabulary, and support for Fatima, and we'll meet after so that we can reflect together.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sanchez.
Well, hi, Miss Dunn. Nice to
Hi,
have
Ms.
you back
Ganchev. Thank
again.
you, thank
Thank you for
you.
meeting with me. I want to start by saying how much I enjoyed watching your lesson. It was very well planned, and your passion for science really, really showed. Students
Thank you
were
so much.
curious, they were engaged, and I could tell that they enjoyed the hands on stations. You clearly put a lot of thought into grouping, into the vocabulary support and how to meet the
Thank
needs
you.
of all learners. That aligns beautifully with the T-test domains 1 and 2, and I saw strong instructional leadership on your part. But before we
Thank you.
jump in, I'd love to hear your thoughts first. How do you think the lesson went, and what is your overall impression of how everything played out?
Yes, thank you. Overall, I think it went pretty well. The students seemed really into the activities, especially when they got to use the materials to explore how light behaves. I did notice that we ran out of time a little at the end, and I was hoping to spend more time on the exit tickets. And student reflections, but I feel like most of them were engaged and using the vocabulary we've been practicing. I was proud of how Fatima participated too. If
Yes,
you
yes, she did
noticed,
really
she
good.
stayed on task for most of the rotations, which is a very big win for me.
Yes, of course. Overall, your lesson had a lot of strengths. First, I want to commend you on the engagement strategies that you
Thank you.
used. The hands on stations were well structured, and I saw students genuinely curious and involved with the materials. And this, like I said, ties to the domain 1, where your lesson was aligned to the TEKS, and the design really supported active learning.
Well, thank you, Ms. Ganchev. I was hoping the students would really stay on task
Yes,
and engage, which is what we
yes.
always want.
They definitely were. I also noticed how you supported diverse learners, and your differentiation was thoughtful and effective. I saw visuals and sentence stems being used, and your GT extension really challenged those students to think critically, which reflects with domain 2 again, especially with meeting students' varied needs.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Kanchev. I have been working hard this year
I
with
can
that,
tell.
and I know that, I mean, everybody knows it takes a lot of time to plan these activities.
Yes,
So
yes.
thank you. Thank you so
The
much.
effort definitely shows. Another big strength was how you supported academic vocabulary. I heard students using terms like refraction and absorption appropriately in their discussions, which I loved, and it speaks to your intentional language development.
Yes, thank you. I have been really emphasizing those words during our warm ups and stations discussions because, like science is just complete vocabulary. So you really need to
Yes,
emphasize
yes, yes, of
vocabulary.
course. Well, it definitely paid off, Miss Dunn. I also want to acknowledge your attention to classroom culture and behavior support, especially with
Thank you.
Fatima. You
Yes,
did an
thank you.
amazing job. You clearly prepared for her needs, giving her a group role and checking in frequently. I noticed that she stayed more focused than usual, and your proximity and positive reinforcement, they worked really well, Miss Dunn.
Yes, I bet
Really
your
well.
presence there was very helpful too for Fatima.
Yeah, probably.
um,
Well, okay, Ms. Dunn, now for a few areas to think about moving forward, because there's always room for improvement.
yes, of course.
First of all, I'm going to start with time management. While your stations were very well planned, a couple of groups didn't quite finish before rotating. So consider building a brief transition time buffer, or maybe reducing the number of stations slightly so that all students can reflect more deeply before the moving
Yes,
on.
you're right.
Yes, also the formative assessment consistency. You were actively checking in with students, which is great. One suggestion is to more systematically capture student understanding during those check-ins. Maybe use a quick rubric or a checklist to track misconceptions right in the moment.
Yes.
And the last one that I can think of is your student to student discourse. There was definitely great energy in most groups, but in a couple one student dominated while others kind of stayed quiet. You might consider assigning structured talk roles during stations just to kind of encourage a balanced participation and deeper peer interaction.
That's great. Yes, of course. Thank you for your insights, and that I think that's very helpful. I did notice some uneven talk time, and I like the idea of using roles to guide it. So
Yes.
thank you so much.
Well, it's just a small tweak, obviously, because you did great. But those small tweaks can have a big impact.
Yes.
And
Okay.
overall, this lesson was very strong. It showed clear alignment to your goals, strong instructional planning, and real commitment to your students. You're creating a classroom where students feel supported and they are growing academically. And I really, really enjoyed that.
Thank you, Ms.
Well, here's a quick summary of your ratings from the T-TEST rubric.
Thank you.
So for Dimension 1.1, which is standards and alignment, you will get a proficient. For Dimensions 1.2, data and assessment, they're proficient too. For Dimension 2.2, content knowledge and expertise, you are proficient. Dimension 2.3, communication, proficient. Dimension 2.4, differentiation, you're proficient to accomplish. You showed excellent support for your ELLs, your SPEDs, and your DTs students, and for your 3.1 proficient. This was a strong lesson with great effort put into student engagement, academic language, and inclusive supports. With just a few small adjustments in timing and pacing, you can take your already great lesson just to the next level.
Yes, of course. I'll work on that.
I want you to know, Ms. Dunn, that you are doing a wonderful job. We love having you in our school. Your lessons are thoughtful and your heart is clearly in the right place. Let's keep working on pacing and ensuring that all students have enough time to process and respond. You've got the tools, the strategies already. Just a few tweaks will make a big, big impact. I'm very, very, very proud of you. Would you like to try one of these adjustments in any upcoming lesson? I'd be happy to observe again and give feedback if it's helpful for you.
I would really love that. I will work on it right away, and maybe we can meet again so that you can go and observe another lesson.
Yes, yes, that sounds like a great plan. I'll check in with you next week and see how it's going. Anything you need, you let me know, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Ms. Cantu.